What's up? I'm Lily. Revenge Crown brings you the stories that keep you hooked. If that sounds good, smash subscribe and let's go. During the bouquet toss, my mother told everyone, the investment account from her parents will fund your brother's business dream instead. My father nodded and sighed. You two have steady jobs. He needs this more. My wife just turned to face them. Voice calm and said, I don't think you understand how this works. The ballroom smelled like roses and champagne, with that undertone of frosting from the three-tiered cake waiting on its table. String lights hung in swooping arcs from the ceiling, casting soft amber across the 120 guests gathered for the bouquet toss. My wife held the bundle of white peonies and garden roses, her wedding dress catching the light, making her look like she was standing in her own spotlight. My mother stood 10 feet away, near the gift table, one hand resting possessively on a cream envelope that wasn't hers. My father stood beside her, wearing his rehearsed reasonable patriarch expression. My brother, 28, still figuring out his fifth business idea in 3 years, leaned against the wall behind them, arms crossed, smirking like he'd already won something. The music had paused. The DJ's voice had faded. Every woman under 40 had gathered on the dance floor, hands raised, laughing, waiting for the toss. And my mother had chosen this moment, this exact moment, with witnesses and cameras and fairy lights to announce that the investment account my wife's parents had given us was no longer ours. I was the resource. I had always been the resource. When I was 9, my brother got the new gaming system for Christmas because he had a hard year adjusting to middle school. I got a used bicycle from a garage sale with a bent kickstand. When I was 15, I mowed lawns all summer to buy my first laptop for the coding classes I was taking online. My brother got a MacBook Pro for his birthday because he wanted to explore digital art. When I got accepted to State University on a partial scholarship, my parents told me I should be proud I'd worked hard. When my brother got into a private college with no scholarship, my parents took out loans and threw him a celebration dinner at the nicest restaurant in town. The world bent for him. It always had. I was practical, reliable, the strong one. My brother was creative, sensitive, the dreamer who needed support to find his path. What they never asked was what I needed. I graduated with a degree in computer science and got a job at a mid-sized tech company doing back-end development. Remote work, decent salary, room to grow. I paid off my student loans in 4 years while living in a modest apartment with 2 roommates, saving aggressively, building something they never asked about because they assumed something with computers meant I was doing fine. Fine meant invisible. Fine meant I didn't need anything. Fine meant I could be the safety net while my brother jumped without looking. My wife changed that. I met Emma at a coffee shop near the university where she taught economics. She was grading papers, muttering about supply curves, and I'd made a joke about demand for decent coffee. She'd laughed, really laughed, the kind that sounds like music, and we'd talked for 2 hours. Her parents were both small business owners. Her father ran a local bookstore that had survived Amazon through sheer stubborn community building. Her mother owned a bakery that made wedding cakes and taught classes on the weekends. They weren't wealthy, but they were generous in the way that costs nothing, listening, trusting, handing you space to grow without conditions. When Emma and I got engaged, her parents pulled us aside after the celebration dinner. We want to give you something, her mother said. We've been setting money aside for years. It's not a fortune, but it's enough to start an investment account. Something that can grow. Something that's yours. $42,000 in a managed investment account. Enough to build real wealth over time. Enough to have security, options, a foundation that wasn't rented or borrowed or dependent on anyone's approval. My family didn't know about it. They didn't know my salary had increased to 6 figures 2 years ago after a promotion. They didn't know I'd been seeing a therapist for 16 months, slowly untangling what it meant to be the family hinge, the one everything turned on, the one who held it together while being taken apart piece by piece. But I knew them. I knew their patterns like I knew my own heartbeat. 3 weeks before the wedding, sitting in Dr. Chan's office, I'd said, they're going to try something. She'd set down her pen, giving me that steady look. What makes you think that? Because there's something visible now, something valuable. Something they can claim for him. Dr. Chan had nodded slowly. And what do you want to do about it? I want to be ready. My coworker Marcus was finishing his paralegal certification while working in our company's compliance department. Over lunch in the break room, I'd explained the situation, family dynamics, the gift, the likelihood they'd try to redirect it to my brother's latest venture. Marcus hadn't looked surprised. "You're not being paranoid," he'd said. "You're being prepared." He'd helped me draft a notarized declaration. Clean, direct, legally sound. It stated that all wedding gifts given to Emma and me were titled exclusively in our names and could not be transferred, claimed, or redistributed without our explicit written consent. An additional clause specified that any attempt to circumvent this would trigger immediate legal review and forfeit any future claims to Emma's family's estate. Not that there was much beyond the bakery and bookstore, but the threat mattered. Emma had signed it without hesitation. Her hand hadn't shaken. "Finally," she'd said. "Boundaries. Absolutely. We'd had it notarized." I'd kept it in my jacket pocket, waiting. The wedding ceremony had been beautiful. Small church, afternoon light through stained glass, Emma's father walking her down the aisle with tears in his eyes. Her mother had played piano an original piece she'd composed for us. Her younger sister had read a poem about building a home in someone's laughter. My family had sat in the fourth row, dressed appropriately, smiling appropriately, performing appropriately. My mother's perfume-heavy, floral, impossible to breathe through without feeling like you were suffocating, had reached me even at the altar. She dabbed at her eyes with a lace handkerchief during the vows, performing a motion for the cameras. The reception started at 5. Cocktail hour in the garden while the ballroom was set up. Dinner at round tables with white linens and centerpieces of candles and eucalyptus. The band, a 6-piece ensemble Emma's parents knew from the local arts council, played jazz standards while we ate. Everything had been perfect until the bouquet toss. We'd done the cake cutting. The first dance. The father-daughter dance where Emma's dad had whispered something that made her laugh and cry at the same time. We'd done toasts, Emma's maid of honor telling stories about college adventures. My best man from work talking about the time I debugged code for 16 hours straight to save a product launch. My family had been quiet through all of it, polite, watching. Then the DJ announced the bouquet toss, and all the unmarried women gathered on the dance floor, hands up, laughing, jostling for position. Emma stood at the edge, her back to them, holding the bouquet high. And my mother, wearing a champagne-colored dress that matched her carefully maintained highlights, her perfume creating a visible cloud around her, stepped forward and announced to the entire ballroom. "Before we do this, I want to say something about the generous gift from Emma's parents." The music didn't stop, but the room went quiet anyway. That strange acoustic phenomenon where 120 people all stopped talking at once. Emma lowered the bouquet slowly, turning to face my mother. My mother's smile was radiant, rehearsed, the one she'd perfected over 3 decades of performing devotion. "The investment account they've set up for these two is incredibly generous. But my husband and I have been talking, and we think it makes more sense to use that money to fund our younger son's business venture. He's trying to launch a sustainable clothing line, and this would give him the capital he needs to really make it work." My father nodded, his expression grave, reasonable. "You two have steady jobs, good salaries. You don't need investment money right now. But your brother, this could change his life. Family helps family, right?" My brother pushed off from the wall, walking closer, that smirk still on his face. "I mean, you guys are set. This would actually mean something to me. It would be my break, you know? The thing I've been waiting for." Emma stood perfectly still, the bouquet hanging at her side now. The dance floor full of women had gone silent, some of them lowering their hands, phones appearing half raised, half hidden, recording or ready to record. Emma's parents sat at the table closest to ours. Her father's face had gone carefully blank. Her mother's hand was pressed flat against the table, like she was trying to hold herself steady. I looked at my mother. Then at my father. Then at my brother, who still thought he'd won something. Emma's voice was quiet when she spoke, but it carried across the entire ballroom. "I don't think you understand how this works." My mother's smile flickered, but held. "Sweetheart, we're family. We make these decisions together. What's ours is ours." "No," Emma said. Her voice was still calm, but there was steel underneath it. "What's mine is mine. What's his is his. What's ours is ours. And none of it is yours. I stood from my chair, moving to stand beside Emma. My hand found the small of her back a steady pressure. I'm here. I've got you. My mother tried again, her voice taking on that wounded tone she used when she wanted to make you feel guilty. This is your wedding day. Let's not be difficult. Your brother has worked so hard on this business idea.
He deserves support.
Support isn't theft, I said. My voice didn't shake. And love isn't access. My father stepped forward, his hands raised like he was trying to calm a situation he'd helped create. Son, let's be reasonable here. You're doing well. Your brother needs this opportunity. We thought you'd understand. I understand perfectly, I said. You see something valuable that isn't yours, and you think you can claim it for him. Like you've been doing my entire life. My brother's smirk had vanished. Jesus Christ, stop being dramatic. It's just money. You can invest any time. This is my shot. Your fifth shot, I said. After the food truck that failed, the app that never launched, the consulting business with no clients, the podcast that got 3 episodes. Should I keep going? His face flushed red. Those were learning experiences. They were funded by me, I interrupted. Every single one. The $6,000 for the food truck equipment you never paid back. The $4,000 for app development you abandoned. The $2,000 for the podcast setup you sold on Craigslist. I've been your learning experience budget for a decade. The ballroom had gone completely silent now. Even the band had stopped playing, the musicians watching from their raised platform. My mother's composure cracked slightly. Her smile turned sharp, desperate. We don't need to discuss this here. In front of everyone. You announced your plan to steal our investment account in front of everyone, Emma said. Her voice was still calm, but her hand had moved to her clutch, a small beaded bag that matched her dress. We're addressing it in front of everyone. She pulled out a cream envelope, unfolded it carefully, and held it up so my parents could see. This is a notarized declaration, Emma continued. Drafted 3 weeks ago and filed with our attorney. It states that all wedding gifts given to us are titled exclusively in our names. They cannot be transferred, claimed, or redistributed without our explicit written consent. Any attempt to do so triggers immediate legal review. She paused, letting that sink in. My mother's face had gone pale under her carefully applied makeup. My father was staring at the document like it might bite him. There's an additional clause, I added. Any family member who attempts to circumvent this agreement forfeits all future claims to any inheritance or estate benefits from Emma's family. Not that there's much, but the principle stands. My brother's face had gone from red to white. You can't be serious. This is insane. We're your family. My family asked before taking, I said. My family respects boundaries. My family doesn't announce theft in front of 100 witnesses and call it love. My mother's hand went to her throat, touching her pearl necklace, a nervous gesture I'd seen 1,000 times. This is cruel. We raised you better than this. We taught you about generosity, about helping people who need it. You taught me to disappear, I said. To give everything and call it family. To be the resource everyone could draw from without ever filling back up. You taught me that my needs were optional and his were urgent. That I was fine because I had to be. I smiled then. Small, calm, dangerous. I'm done being fine on your terms. Emma's father stood from his table. He walked over slowly, deliberately, and stood beside his daughter. I think we're finished here, he said quietly. His voice was steady, the voice of a man who spent 40 years running a business in a small town where reputation mattered. The investment account was our gift to our daughter and son-in-law. Not to strangers who would steal it at their wedding reception. Emma's mother joined him, standing on Emma's other side. If you can't be respectful, she said softly, you should leave. My mother's eyes darted around the room, at all those phones, all those witnesses, all those people who just watched her mask slip completely. Her mascara had started to smudge, not from tears but from the way she kept blinking rapidly, trying to maintain control. This is petty, she whispered, but her voice shook. You're being vindictive. I'm being clear, I said. The account is ours. The house we'll buy with the dividends will be ours. The future we're building is ours. And if you try to take any of it, you'll be hearing from an attorney. My brother slammed his fist against the gift table, making the cards rattle. Unbelievable. You've always been like this. Selfish, you got everything handed to you. I laughed once, dry, low. I got the garage sale bike and the used laptop and the kitchen cake while you got the gaming system and the MacBook and the celebration dinner. I got double shifts and student loans and 4 years of ramen while you got allowance. And private college and 5 failed businesses funded by my silence. I didn't get anything handed to me. I earned everything while you waited for the world to bend. My father tried one more time, his voice dropping to that low, serious tone he used when he wanted to sound authoritative. Son, you're making a mistake. Family is forever. Money is temporary. You'll regret this when you're older and you've burned these bridges. The bridges were already burned, Emma said. Her voice was steady as stone. You just never noticed because he kept rebuilding them. He's done rebuilding. She turned back to the dance floor, where 30 women still stood frozen, watching. She raised the bouquet high. Sorry for the delay, she said, her voice lighter now, almost cheerful. Let's try this again. She tossed it. Someone caught it, Emma's cousin, who shrieked with delight. The DJ started the music again. The spell broke. People started talking, moving, drinking, pretending they hadn't just witnessed a family implode. My brother left first, storming toward the exit, shoving past guests without apologizing. My mother followed, her heels clicking sharp against the marble floor, that perfume trailing behind her like a threat. My father stood there another moment, his face carefully blank, before finally turning and walking away, his shoulders curved inward like a man trying to make himself smaller. I watched them go. Emma's hand found mine, our fingers interlacing. You okay? She whispered. Yeah, I said. And I was. We stayed at the reception another 2 hours. We danced. We cut the cake. We took pictures with Emma's family, real pictures with real smiles with people who chose us not because they had to, but because they wanted to. My phone buzzed in my pocket throughout the night, then again. Then again. I didn't look at it once. We left around midnight. Climbing into the car, Emma's maid of honor had decorated with streamers and just married shoe polish on the windows. Emma drove toward our hotel, the city lights blurring past, her hand warm in mine across the center console. My phone had stopped buzzing, then started again. Then stopped. 53 missed calls, I said, glancing at it finally. You going to answer? No. She squeezed my hand once. Good. The 2 weeks after the wedding were a cascade of consequences, each one more specific than the last. My phone, 127 missed calls. My mother, 47 times. My father, 31. My brother, 29. Various aunts, uncles, and cousins who'd heard different versions of what happened, 20 combined. I didn't answer any of them. My voicemail filled up. My mother's messages progressed from wounded to angry to desperate to threatening. You've embarrassed this family. Your brother is devastated. We're telling everyone what you did. You'll regret this. Please call me back. We need to talk like adults. I deleted them without listening to the full messages. My brother sent emails. Long, rambling ones about how I'd always been jealous of him, how I'd ruined his chance at success, how the family would never forgive me. You could have helped me, he wrote in one. You had the resources, and you chose to be selfish. I hope you can live with that. I blocked his email address. My father tried a different approach. He sent a text. I understand you're angry. But cutting off your family over money is extreme. We can work this out if you just talk to us like a reasonable person. I didn't respond. Emma's parents called once. Just checking in, we heard your family left early. We wanted to make sure you two are okay and that the investment account is secure. It was secure. We were okay. Extended family started reaching out. My father's younger brother, who I'd always liked, called and said, I heard what happened. I'm sorry. That wasn't right. Your mother had no business trying to redirect your gift. I thanked him. We talked for 20 minutes about boundaries, about family patterns that repeat until someone breaks them, about the difference between helping and enabling. He told me about his own experiences with my mother, the time she tried to borrow money for my brother's first failed business without telling anyone, the way she'd always made excuses for him while holding everyone else to impossible standards. You did the right thing, he said. It won't feel like it for a while. But you did. 3 cousins reached out with similar messages. We've been there. Good for you. Family isn't supposed to cost you everything. My brother tried calling from different numbers, friends' phones, work phones, numbers I didn't recognize. I stopped answering calls from unknown numbers. My mother showed up at our apartment one afternoon, 2 weeks after the wedding. Emma and I were home, unpacking wedding gifts when the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. My mother stood there, perfectly dressed, perfectly composed, holding a small gift bag. I didn't open the door. She rang again, knocked, called through the door. I know you're home, please. I just want to talk. Emma came up beside me, looked through the peephole, then looked at me. What do you want to do? Nothing, I said. We stood there in silence while my mother knocked 3 more times. Then finally left, the gift bag hanging from our doorknob like an accusation. I threw it away without opening it. A month after the wedding, Emma and I met with a financial advisor to discuss the investment account. It had grown slightly, market fluctuations, dividend reinvestment, compound interest doing its quiet work. What are your goals for this? The advisor asked. Long-term security, Emma said. Something we can grow over time. Maybe pull from for a house down payment in 5 years or keep invested for retirement. Something that's ours, I added. That we built together. The advisor nodded, asked questions, laid out strategies. By the time we left, we had a planned conservative growth, diversified portfolio, automatic contributions from our salaries. We walked to the car holding hands, the late afternoon sun warm on our faces. My phone sat silent in my pocket. It hadn't rung in 4 days. For the first time, the silence didn't ache. It settled. 6 weeks after the wedding, I got a message from my brother on LinkedIn apparently. He hadn't thought to block me there. Just one line. Launching the clothing line without you. Don't need your help anyway. I didn't respond. But 3 weeks later, I saw a GoFundMe link he'd posted. $50,000 needed for sustainable fashion startup. 7 people had donated. Total raised, $230. I didn't donate. I didn't feel guilty either. 2 months after the wedding, Emma and I painted the 2nd bedroom in our apartment. We decided to turn it into a home office, desks against opposite walls so we could work together in comfortable silence. The paint was a soft gray blue. The windows faced east, catching morning light. Emma's desk had a photo of us from the wedding the moment right after we said our vows, both of us laughing, her hand in mine. We worked quietly, rolling paint onto walls, music playing low from Emma's phone. My phone sat face down on the kitchen counter, silent. Emma came up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist, pressed her cheek against my shoulder blade. You good?
Yeah, I said. I'm good. And I was.
I'd spent 28 years being the hinge, the resource, the one who held it together while being taken apart. I'd been taught that giving was love, that boundaries were cruelty, that saying no meant you were selfish. But giving without consent isn't generosity. It's extraction. And I was done being extracted from. I thought about my brother, probably launching another venture that would fail in 6 months, waiting for someone else to fund his dreams. I thought about my parents, who'd spent decades building a family structure that required one person to sacrifice so another could thrive. I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel guilty. I just felt free. Freedom doesn't announce itself, it whispers. It sounds like a phone that doesn't ring. It looks like paint on walls you chose. It feels like someone's arms around you who picked you, not because they needed something, but because they wanted you. Boundaries don't destroy families. They define them. They separate the people who love you from the people who love what you provide. They protect the relationships worth keeping and release the ones that only worked when you were small, when you said yes, when you disappeared so someone else could expand. My family had taught me to be useful. Emma's family had taught me to be valued. And being valued, taking up space, having needs, drawing lines, saying no wasn't selfish. It was survival. I set down the paint roller, turned around, kissed my wife in the half-painted office of the apartment we'd made into a home. Yeah, I said again, quieter this time. I'm really good. The investment account sat in our names, growing quietly, building something that belonged to us. The phone stayed silent. The walls dried slowly. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for permission to exist. I was just existing, fully, finally, free. If you've ever had to draw a line with someone who called it love, share your story below. You're not alone, and you don't owe anyone your peace.